Please join me in welcoming the unsinkable Maude Barlow.
You are so sweet. Wow. Hello, Bioneers. Wonderful, wonderful to be here. Very, very honored to be on such an amazing panel with these visionaries. Water has been discovered by the private sector long before most of us understood the extent and the nature of the crisis in which we're now living. A number of corporations around the world started collecting the ways and thinking of the ways they were going to cartelize and commodify the world's water, because those who control the world's water systems in the near future are going to be the most powerful among us. That's why I call water blue gold, both because, of course, it is precious to all of life and precious to all of us, but it has been discovered as the most important commodity to be bought and sold on the open market. And this is a parallel reality that we need to deal with as we understand and start to unravel the fact that when we exponentially remove groundwater far faster, when we mine it far faster than we can replenish it, or nature can replenish it, we know that it's going to be probably the site of many wars in the future. Now, we live in the era of the so-called Washington Consensus, that governments are abandoning their responsibility to their citizens, to natural resources, in the name of competition and unlimited growth. And as one famous environmentalist said, that unlimited growth has the same DNA as the cancer cell. It has to turn on its host in order to survive. But that's a system and a kind of thinking that most of our governments around the world have bought into big time. In this new world, absolutely everything is for sale: the seed deep in the forest, the rain before it falls, the fish in the water before they're caught. Absolutely everything has been commodified. And so the new mantra around water is commodify it, put it on the open market for sale, and let it be bought by the highest bidder. And what is at dispute now is whether water is a fundamental human right or a human need. And you may think that's semantic, but it's not. The World Bank says that it's a human need, and therefore it can be delivered by corporations. We say it's a fundamental human right, and you cannot buy and trade or give away a human right. Now, a handful of very powerful corporations have moved into the area of water, and I want to talk to you for just a few minutes about what kinds of corporations we're talking about and what types of privatization. There are three basic ways in which water is being commodified. The first is bottled water. We are putting a great deal of fresh water around the world in plastic bottles every year. Last year it was over 100 billion liters. I think that's about 33, 35 billion gallons of water, mostly in plastic, non-recyclable bottles. And we now have places like the Philippines that are receiving these as one of their growing industries in huge towering mountains of plastic bottles. There are fierce fights being waged all over the world as these corporations come in, either to take municipal water, which is what Pepsi and Coke do, and they put it through a process whereby they discard 2/3. For every liter of water, they discard 2/3. Or companies like Nestle, which owns about 78 brands, including Perrier, and there are fights even here in North America around these companies. They're coming in and taking ancient aquifer water, and Coca-Cola just got the contract, a 100-year right to a whole water system in the state of Kerala, India. And they're telling the local people that they have no right to access that water. And this is I know it sounds insane, but you get to go into countries that are very, very poor and whose governments or municipalities are desperate for money, and they turn around and these companies are here. And let us just say this out loud: it is a form of mass insanity to allow so much water to be put in plastic bottles that destroy our environment as we allow our public water systems to decline. The third area of privatization, and the one that's moving most fast, is the whole privatization of the delivery of fresh water in municipalities and communities around the world. This is happening very fast. There are three major corporations. Enron got into the game, by the way, but this is one of the good byproducts of Enron going down, as Azurix went down as well. But the three big players, Suez, Vivendi, and RWE Thames, are all European, and they are on a very, very aggressive move to cartelize the world's water sources. And they actually work with each other to say, I'll stay out of this area, but you give me this area. And they are actually dividing up the world very clearly. All three of these corporations are in the Fortune 100 top transnational corporations. Globally, their annual revenue last year was $160 billion. It's growing at 10% a year, outpacing the economy of many countries in which they operate, and they also employ more staff than most governments. Vivendi now has 300,000. This is Vivendi, just their water division, not their entertainment division, employs 300,000 people around the world. Their takeover of water systems around the world is absolutely well documented, and I invite you to join us in spreading this word, and I can share this with you through our website and so on. But it's huge profits, higher prices for water, cutoffs to people who can't pay. In many third world countries, they've actually taken the water and put it right out of the reach of sometimes the majority of the population. In Bolivia, when they privatized water, they actually said, we're also going to charge you for the rain that falls on cisterns in your wells and your roof. I do not make that up. You couldn't. Totally secret dealings, reduced water standards, and bribery and corruption. Now, it will not surprise you to know that then there is, of course, a set of institutional players that have come around to promote the privatization of the world's water. These companies are aggressively backed by the World Bank, the other development banks, and the International Monetary Fund. The majority of loans, in fact, in the last 5 years by the World Bank on water have been on condition that they privatize. But so contentious and outright hated are these companies in community after community around the world, they are being kicked out. The local resistance is so fierce. From Manila in the Philippines to Buenos Aires to Atlanta, Georgia. Did you know that Atlanta just ended a 20-year contract after 2 years with Suez because from one of many reasons, the water coming out of the taps was brown. Because there's this fight back, the World Bank has just announced that it's going to increase its funding for these corporations. And don't forget, this is public money. This is our money. They're going to increase the funding for privatization of water in the third world from $1.3 billion this year to $4 billion next year. There is a World Water Council that set itself up as a global high command of water, and they treat themselves and talk about themselves as if they're the kind of the United Nations of water, but in fact it's the World Bank, the IMF, and these big water companies. And they have established a World Water Forum every 3 years, which just took place in Kyoto, Japan. And let me tell you, we brought hundreds of people from all over the world, and we caused them such distress. At every single workshop, every panel, there was a panel of CEOs with all the heads of all the water companies sitting up on this dais with their $4,000 Brioni suits. And we had one after the other, our people from the Global South come up and hold up bottles of water, of what water looks like in their communities after it's been privatized, and sent it up to the presidents of these companies and challenged them. Are you brave enough to drink this? And of course, the suits at the front were holding the bottles out like this. We caused major trouble. We got 90% of the media, and we actually forced the World Water Council to put on their website that, alas, there had been no consensus on water privatization at the World Water Forum. Water. We're on the cusp of making some very important decisions around water. Faster than most of us realize, water is becoming a cartel to be controlled by a powerful global elite. Unless we are successful in stopping this juggernaut, in the not-too-distant future, water will be a commodity, and all decisions regarding water will be made on commercial, not environmental or social justice considerations. Now, this is not to excuse the way in which some governments have delivered water. We have not collectively cared for our water. But the answer to not good government or not adequate government is good government and answering to the people and answering to an awakened population. It is not handing it over to transnational corporations who will continue to promote the corrupt governments that got them there in the first place. What we have to say in answer to the question, who owns water, is that no one owns it. It belongs to the earth. It belongs to other species. It belongs to future generations. It is a fundamental human right. It is a public trust. It is part of the global commons that we're going to carve out of these marketplace mechanisms, and is going to be one of the first places in which we reject the Washington Consensus. And a water-secure future is based on the twin principles, the twin foundations of conservation on one hand and social justice or equity on the other. Cannot have one without the other. We're going to have to build a movement where environmental concerns come together with human justice concerns, and we say to one another that every human in the world, every plant in the world, every other species in the world has the same right to this fundamental right to water. And when I remember standing in a place called Orange Farm in South Africa and seeing for the first time water being piped to houses that have never had it, and they have pit latrines outside, and the worst poverty I have seen in my life. But finally, because they have water as a guaranteed constitutional right, there it is coming up to them. But there's, between the water and the tap is a state-of-the-art water meter put in by their government and Suez. And they cannot afford it, and now they have to still walk miles to get the water from rivers that are polluted with cholera warning signs. I say no. You know who we're working with? We're working with the South African Municipal Workers Union, who are the ones who have to put the meters in the daytime and come back and teach people how to take them out at night. That's who we're working with. Water is the sacred lifeblood of the earth. No one has the right to take it for profit. Until we collectively understand that, expect more resistance, expect violence, and I don't mean from our side. There's going to be police repression around this. Expect the resistance to get stronger, expect it to get global. Expect the rise of a powerful civil society movement to challenge the lords of water. No one gave them the world's water. People and nature will take it back. Thank you.